Hello and welcome to Unabashed You, Cindy. What a pleasure it is to have you today.
It's great to be here, Rechelle. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes. This is so wonderful. All right, we're going to get to know you a little bit. Is there anything you want the listeners to know about you as we get started here?
Sure. Yeah, I'm an author and let's see here. I'm a sexual abuse advocate, or I'm an advocate for sexual abuse survivors, excuse me.
Right. Yes.
And let's see here. I'm mother of four
Oh
and
my gosh.
I know a grandmother, and I live in Seattle, Washington.
Oh gosh. Four kids?
Four
Oh
kids.
my gosh. Wow. Okay. Wow. Good for you. And you live in Seattle. Okay. What three words would you use to describe yourself?
I would have to say I'm very honest. Um, Yeah, I would definitely say I'm honest. I'm very discerning. I'm very open and raw. I don't really feel like I have any reason to hold back. What's another thing I would describe? Honest, discerning, and actually goofy. Goofy of all things.
Well, I love that because anybody who knows me knows I have quite a goofy side. So yay, yay for goofy. Love that. Love that. All right, two truths and a lie. Have you played this before? Do you know how this goes?
Yes, I'm always terrible at this, but let's give it a rip.
Okay. Tell me three things about yourself and I'll see if I can tell which one isn't true.
Okay. Um, I did 3 triathlons. I love to work out and I really enjoy cooking.
Okay. 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 Okay, this is interesting. Okay, I did three triathlons. I love to work out. I enjoy cooking. Okay, the first two are very physical and workout mode, right? And the
Mhm.
third was enjoyed cooking, which is completely different than the first two, which makes me think that the first two are true and that the third one is a lie. How'd I do?
Well, actually, I enjoy cooking and I hate to work out, but I did do 3 triathlons.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Let's go back through this. Okay. You did do three triathlons. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. That is just incredible. And you don't love to work out, but you do work out. You have to work out to do
You
three
have to work out.
triathlons.
Well, I think you have to work out just to keep a healthy body. So I think that's,
Yes.
and I don't enjoy it every time I go to the gym or every time I'm in there. The only thing that keeps me going is my outfit, and I try to change the outfit so that I can keep on going.
Well, that's a good strategy. That
Right?
is really good strategy. Okay. That I really like the strategy of that. Changing the outfit to keep it. Okay, I'm writing that down. Okay, so you don't love to work out, but you do enjoy cooking.
I think it's a creative outlet. You know, you're
Yes.
cooking, it's something that you most likely that you enjoy, or a food that somebody else likes. And I think with 4 kids, I had to learn how to enjoy cooking.
Okay. All right. I'll agree with that. Okay. And then if yeah, so we went through all three. We got what the lie is, but you have to do it anyway. Okay. One of your favorite movies of all time.
So I have been asked questions like this before. What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite food? And I have to be honest about this. I do not have a favorite movie, but I do have a favorite type of movie. And I love real stories. I love to find a story that's either touching or something that I could learn from, like Gandhi, for example. Like, I really thought that was an amazing movie, like how he moved and really changed lives. And I like movies that inspire and change lives. And there's so many, I watch so many of them. I'm obsessed with them. So I would just be spouting out maybe my top 50. So I have to say, I don't have a favorite movie.
You
Yeah.
know what? And I completely understand what you're saying. And so that's why I word the question one of your favorite movies of all time, because, I feel like we're back in elementary school. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? As if there is one and only one. But what I like about this question is one, I love movies. too. I kind of, I mean, when you share a title or two with me, I start to get a feel for, oh, so she likes real life stories. She likes inspirational stories. It starts to help me paint a picture of who you are. But I totally get the favorite thing. I really do. Not, but and you did mention Gandhi. So stories that are either based on true stories or historical fiction, I'm guessing, are
Yeah.
the kinds of things that you like because they're rooted in truth.
Yeah, that's a very good way of saying that, and so I have to ask, what's your do you have an all-time favorite?
Oh, I like you, I have more than one, but one of my all-time favorites is Something's Got to Give, and that's with Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. And I like a good complicated relationships, trying to figure things out, some neuroses, somebody's got to have some kind of a conflict or something going on. And then sort of the transformation that at least one character hopefully goes through before the end of the movie and then laughs. I mean, that movie kind of has it all. So that's one of my favorites. I also love Terms of Endearment for the same reasons. And I also love, Dances with Wolves, although it doesn't have a lot of comedy, it's right up there. I wanted to like be in it and feel it and just really just be deeply moved. In fact, some of my favorite movies, I don't want to ever see them again because they were too hard to see the first time, like Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan, although I have revisited that one. They come at a cost, an emotional cost, but I love them.
I get it. I completely get I have to say I don't like to watch a movie a second time around. Like, if it's a great movie, I will leave it as that, and I might
Oh,
come back in 20 years or 10 years later and go, "Oh, that was a good movie," or I'll recommend it, but it's not
right.
I just like, I loved it that much that I just thought, "You know what? It was so perfect, I can't do it again."
Right. And that is true for me of what I would call the A movies, the ones like I mentioned. Although Something's Got to Give, I think it would be more in the B category where I can see them over if I wanted to see them over. They're a little easier to watch again because they don't have quite that emotional angst that some of those other ones have. I can't revisit those regularly. There's too much that I have to feel to get to the end.
Yeah, I get
Okay,
that.
so Gandhi and yeah, so you did mention Gandhi. Do you like a good rom-com or not so much?
Well, I like something with a little comedy, oh gosh, do you okay, so let's see. It was a series on Netflix and it was about and it'll maybe you can help me come to this.
Sure.
She's a chemist and
Oh, lessons in chemistry.
blesses in chemistry. So that's like a perfect story. I mean, it has tragedy. It's like a great book. It's less it has tragedy, it has challenges, it has love in it, it has growth in it,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
got it crescendos you and takes you through the ranges of emotions, and then when you leave, you always think like, "Now that's a good story," like, "I learned something from that, and
Yes, you
what can
feel
I apply that?"
satisfied.
Yeah. How can I
Absolutely.
learn from that? What can I apply from that? Yeah.
Yes, yes, very good. See, we're simpatico on this. We've definitely, I feel that same way. Very good. I love this little side conversation about movies. Thank you for saying you didn't have a favorite because it allowed us to really cover a lot of ground. Okay, a person that inspires you. And again, I'm sure countless people inspire you, but somebody you want to share with us today.
So I have a special needs son, and my son is 31, and he was born with a rare brain tumor. And fortunately for him, he is the only child or actually living adult who's ever survived this type of tumor. And who usually people who have this type of tumor, this type of brain tumor, they usually pass in if they have it if they're born with it, they usually pass as a young adult or as a teenager. And my son
Wow.
Brian, he is now 31, and I have to say, he lives on his own. He's in Boise, Idaho. The tumor is still there, And because they removed his emotional center and his speech center, a lot of those neural pathways moved on the other side of his head. So they're always studying and trying to figure out, how does this happen? So he's always a point of study. And for me, he's not a point of study, but for me, he reads air, he reads emotions, and all of his emotions are really kind of coming from he takes a lot of emotions out, but so he's more logical. And he is truly my inspiration. I mean, this kid went through having 63 seizures a
Oh
day
my
and he
gosh.
couldn't even be here, but he really is the person. I feel like he's my extended limb. And the whole family's grown from him, and he truly is my blessing. And everything, he struggles 10 times harder than most people on in average. And when I look at him and as he goes through that process, he's always positive, he's always encouraging, and he'll always stop and take time out of his day and say, "Oh, maybe you could do it this way, mom," or maybe you could think about it this way.
Mm,
And I have to say, that's just,
mm,
he's constantly inspiring me.
mm.
He is
Isn't that
my hero.
incredible?
He is my
Yes, I can see why. And
Mhm.
isn't that interesting? He definitely it has a purpose here. I mean, outside of being your son and a loved family member, the miracle of him still being here and then still learning from him, and then because he's unique in these different ways, he has the opportunity to be so inspirational. I think
Right.
it's such a gift. It's he is an absolute gift.
He is a gift, and he's always a reminder that because he strives so hard and he's so tenacious. And sometimes I think like, oh, poor me. Oh, woe is me. I have to say, I look at him and think like he struggles 10 times harder just to make a grilled cheese sandwich. And I look at him and I just kind of go, all right, like enough moping, enough, get up and get yourself, dust it off, get going. And I have to say, so he does inspire me, not just me, but everybody that he touches
Right,
really inspires. And
right,
it's also just he's a miracle in life, and life is really truly a gift. So when I look at him, he's always a reminder that it's not easy. And but we have this incredible gift of life.
right. Yes, I can see the way that he is living life, the challenges he's had, that he would be very inspirational to people who know him or even know a little bit about his story, much less more of his story. And that gives him just a keener and a deeper sense of purpose than some of us, right?
Yeah, he's got this really interesting gift too because for a while he wasn't able to speak. And so he's got this, it's kind of creepy and kind of and good in the sense he could just sort of read air. So he knows a lot about people. And when he was younger, like say for example, I would have somebody come to the house, they were like a helper or a nanny or whatever you want to refer to that person, but he just knew things intuitively about that person, and he would say, "Oh, mom, I am not getting in the car with that girl." I mean, he didn't have even the discernment to not express it in front of her. He goes, "Oh no, there's something so dark in her. I am not going in. I'm not going to go with."
Wow.
And so, or he would sit with people and go, "Oh, mom, I don't want to sit next to this person because they're afraid of me because I look different and they feel uncomfortable and it makes me feel uncomfortable." I would be like, "Oh, okay, Brian, do you want some more mashed potatoes?" I was trying to cover it up, but
Right.
but it was just he's just kind of my reminder always, like whoever is in, when we have company over, they will always stop and kind of laugh at him, kind of because it's real. It's very, very honest and real. And it just kind of takes the pretenses away. It's just, oh, okay, like we're here. We're gonna be honest and have
I
real.
like that. I like that. I think
Yeah.
we might need a little more of that. That's good. That's very good. All right, Cindy, what's a piece of wisdom you keep handy?
So a piece of wisdom. Being a sexual abuse survivor, my father was my perpetrator, and he was also a narcissist and a very dominant man. And I felt that my voice had been taken away. as a child. So we were kind of like, it from the outside, we look like the perfect family. My dad's highly educated, my mom's this gorgeous woman. We looked like the perfect family. And we always said the appropriate things, but I was never able to express myself. And I felt my voice had been stifled and taken away. And I think it's something that we take for granted all the time, our freedom of voice, our freedom to express ourselves fully. And my what I learned from this, and I actually use it kind of like a quote at the end of my signature. Um, I'm going to read it to you. Here it is. I wrote this even in my book, but I do practice this. One does not have to scream the loudest to have a voice. Sometimes quiet winds move mountains. And so my son is a
Say it
quiet.
one more time.
Okay. One does not have to scream the loudest to have a voice. Sometimes quiet winds move mountains. So often we look at people who are the loudest in the room, or
Mhm.
and we go with their voice or their opinion, but often it's the person really who has struggles with their voice and their opinion, and they matter just as much as the louder person.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yes.
we all have opinions, and we're all capable of moving those mountains. It's not just the loudest voice. It's sometimes
Right.
the little squeaky voice, the quiet voice, and we're all capable. So I think that is just kind of my reminder to that, the gift in using our voice.
Right. Absolutely. And so that actually takes us into the deep dive because we are in the grief and gratitude series. And I know that, you've written the book. I'm so sorry, it's not right in front of me. Something about orange blossoms.
Orange blossoms. It's under the orange blossom.
Under the orange blossoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have gotten there, but it might have taken me a little bit too long. Okay, under the orange blossoms. And you talk a lot about your well, the grounding of being in oranges, orange trees, smelling the oranges, peeling the oranges, how that was and I'm not very far into the book, by the way. Cindy was so kind to send me a copy, and I'm started it and I'm looking forward to continuing it. Um, I already have that sense that like there's a lot you're going to be going through as I'm reading this book. And is it, I mean, didn't the orange, all that orange implied sort of help you cope? Because clearly you had to endure horrible, horrible, unspeakable things, but it seems like you found some, I don't know, escape, or I don't know. What would you tell me? Tell me.
So, actually, one of the most surprising things when I find people, they're going, "Oh my goodness, it's a memoir on your life as a sexual abuse survivor." But actually, the book has incredible. When people finish reading it, they're like, "That was so inspiring. That was so inspiring," or "It gave me so much hope in other directions." Maybe. Other people will say, "Well, I've never been, that is not my story. I'm not a sexual abuse survivor, but it gave me hope, and it I can learn how to apply some of these tools that you went and you used as a child and an adult growing up, how you applied those tools to change your mindset." And so I think that's kind of what the book kind of takes you through. And I was very cognizant of not traumatizing my reader. So I really come from a mindset of a young person and how a teenager talks. So that's why it's a little bit on the lighter side, but it still is very heavy content, but it does take you through the journey, since it's a memoir of a child, all the way into adult years until my father passes afterwards, and the lessons that I learned. And I have a whole self-help section. And it's coming out in Spanish because
Okay,
I
that's good.
found more people are interested in this. And so different countries were, do you have this book out in Spanish? So I'm coming out this year in Spanish. And then I recognized more people were asking about the tools. So I'm going to write a second book, and it'll be just on the tools. It'll just be self-help only, because a lot of the tools are the things that I learned just intuitively, um, that you could apply to your life, just more inspirational things that you could apply to yourself for self
Okay,
help.
so things that you found yourself doing either
Mhm.
through survival or maybe you grab something from this person or that person, things that you yourself did that helped you. I don't even know if navigate is the right word. I don't even
Oh,
know.
yeah,
Survive. Survive
survive,
would
survive.
be a
Yeah.
really good word for it because my goodness. Um, so that's so you've put those, you're putting those together to help people. And I'm imagining that these tools that you're going to be sharing would work for all kinds of different traumas and situations, not just
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's just for anybody who's been through trauma and they're looking for ways of just how to get themselves up. You know, we all cry, we all suffer. No one's exempt of pain. So I
right.
think it's a lot of the innate ability of and I'm going to use some examples here, possibly what it's like to journal your grief or your hate or your pain into that. You know, if someone had passed or if you had gone through some different forms of trauma, and then how to take that and help your mindset so that you're not feeling so stuck and then getting up from there and where you go from there. So that's a little bit more of where this book and the concept of this book is about.
No, that is really great because as I'm we're in this grief and gratitude series, what's becoming clear to me is that we need to have conversations around grief and around trauma. I mean, I know we're starting to have those conversations, but I think we need to keep having those conversations and, for lack of a better word, sort of normalize some of this because sadly, this is normal for a lot of people. It doesn't mean it certainly is not, you know, nobody would sign up for this. And yet
Right.
people endure it. People have to try to get through it, survive it, and then figure out, can I even thrive after this? Is this even
Exactly.
possible? Can I? I don't know.
Mhm.
Um,
That's you've just taken us through the whole cycles of that stages of going through grief and trauma. And that is exactly right on par for those steps. Like, everybody wants to know, will I survive afterwards? Can I be the same? And I have to say, I don't know that because I think when you go through incredible strife in your life, you know, even a marriage or, you know, you go through a divorce, it does change you. But you know, it's only if that individual could say, well, was it a good decision or how did it benefit me? You know, we could look at that, but it's that mindset where you kind of go, yes, it changed 10 positive things, but it left me with these two scars. But that is a mindset where you kind of go, oh, well, I have out of the 12, two things not ideal, but then how do you get past that? And will I let it go? And that's the part of grief. Can I let it go? Will I let it go? How do I let it go? Can I let this reside in my body, this grief and this pain? And it's a process and it's an individual process and there's no right or wrong. It's just truly your process.
yes, I heard somebody say there is no should in grief, which I thought was very appropriate because it looks different for everybody. And there's some commonalities, but it is there's no formula. I have a couple questions based on what you've been through. One is, at what point did you, because I'm only a little just starting the book, at what point did you realize that this was not what other daughters go through? I wanted to use
Um,
the word normal, but it just didn't feel right.
uh,
Like not every daughter was going through what you were going through. When did you figure out, well, this isn't what other people are going through?
well, Rochelle, that's a really good question. I
Okay.
have to say, I think when I was younger, um, like when you're a young child and your parents are, I don't know, bathing you and there's appropriate bathing, like, hurry up, get dry, hurry, like, you know, lift up your armpits, let's dry them off, and you're going through the body parts. There's You innately know as a child if there's something creepy feeling about it or
Mm,
not. And so
mhm,
as a really young child, you're innocent. You don't really know. But then later on, you get this creepy feeling like, I don't think this is right. This just doesn't feel right. And I
mm,
think there's something
mhm.
in a chronological process where you kind of go, you kind of talk to some friends, but they're kind of like, no, that doesn't, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Then you kind of go, oh, this is not right. And I think when someone
Okay.
threatens you, um, if you tell, or I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to hurt you, or they do physical harm to you, then that's like your biggest clue that that is this is something you is wrong here. And I think when it gets to that level, I think that's kind of, and that you could apply that to anything, maybe a boss in your life, or somebody who's a superior anywhere in your life, and you feel like, okay, this is wrong, but I'm not sure what to do. But when there becomes a threat to it, then you're going, this is wrong. They know
Right.
it's wrong, and I know it's wrong, and how am I going to deal with this now?
Right. And that's such an interesting distinction you make. And I think you're right. On some level, innately, a child knows this something. I feel funny about this. That might be one of the words they'd use. And I'd feel this feels funny. But then later you're able to consciously, really verbalize even in your own mind that, oh my gosh, this is not right at all. I mean, it becomes a feeling and now it's a thought, and the thought
Mhm.
moves to the front of your mind so that you know that you know that you know that this is not right. This is not right.
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's so many awful things that we can go through as people. And I just have some natural curiosities, and again, I'm looking forward to reading more. Were you ever able to reconcile with your dad, or no?
Yeah, actually, that's the interesting. My story is a little bit different than most because it does happen. It's 1 out of 4 girls, 1 out of 4 boys, and those are only the reported cases. And I never reported. I was never brave enough to step up or do anything about it. I did. My mom did take us out of the household and we went to a shelter and I got examined. But back in the 70s, if you had bruises, that wasn't enough. If you had your hymen intact, that means it wasn't rape. And they didn't even
No,
have a rape kit back then. And
right.
really, honestly, it's pretty tragic. Back in the 70s, women really didn't have very many rights, even physical abuse. It was so backwards back then. And I just think like 70s was not very far. So we haven't come
It
very
wasn't that
far. It
far.
wasn't
Yes.
far. We haven't come very far. And a lot of the reason I'm talking, well, not a lot, the reason I am talking about this, and I wrote this book, and the intent is that we need to start talking. And the more we have, and we make these type of conversations around sexual abuse, because it's so common, it's epidemic actually, that unless we start talking about that, just to make it take the awkwardness out of it, then
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to change it. If we can't feel comfortable in talking about it. I remember my mom, oh my goodness. So I'm 61. So way back in the day, I remember my mom telling me, she goes, oh, don't go down at the end of the block. There's a divorcee at the end of the block and you don't know what could happen. I remember thinking, what's a divorcee? And what is she going? It sounded like a frisky cat, like hide the catnip. I didn't even know what that was. And I thought, I mean, that was back in the 70s, and somebody going through a divorce was taboo. And if you think about, now we could talk about alcoholism, now we could talk about narcotics, we could talk about suicide, we could talk about oh, all sorts of very in-depth emotional things, and we're just coming to the forefront of talking about sexual abuse even though it's so common. And I think we're kind of at a a lot of people believe that it only happens in Hollywood. It doesn't. It happens all the time. Lovely families. It doesn't happen. You could be educated or non-educated. It happens all the time. And it's time that people start sharing their stories. They're all individual stories. And in
Yep.
my story, I actually took care of my father at the very end. He was really ill. He made me his power of attorney, and I needed to take care of him. I needed to stand up and take care of him. And in this process of doing it, I finally got him to admit that he was doing, he molested me as a child. And in this process, I thought it was so interesting. I said, you know what, Dad, this is so fascinating. I don't know why it's taking you this long. But I'm grateful to hear this. He didn't really say the sorry the way I wanted to hear it, but I learned so much through it. And I thought, I have to record this. I have to write this down. And my dad, I told him that I wanted to write a book about it. So it's a lot of recorded Q&A that I have that I haven't shared yet, but it's sort of like the mindset of a pedophile, pedophile. It's a mindset of a
Yeah.
pedophile and what he's attracted to and what he's not attracted to and how he takes advantage of somebody. And it's sort of like the steps. And it was so disturbing to me that I thought I have to write this. Maybe it will help somebody.
Mm.
And even though I didn't get the apology I wanted to, and I recognized that I had the freedom all along to kind of emotionally set myself free, um, I thought maybe somebody else from these stories and from what he said, somebody would find some form of healing. So that was the
Yes.
second part of it too, is to
Right.
help others and then also to break the cycles of generational sexual abuse because it goes
Right.
on and on. Once it starts, it's sort of an
Well,
ongoing.
and that was, and one more question I had, was he abused as a child, or was he
He
able to even
was.
say that? Okay, gosh,
He
just,
was raped in the war as a 6-year-old boy by 12 soldiers. Um,
oh,
And when he was describing what he was going through, I noticed that he had a lot of shame and then he took it back. And I know this, I pushed so far. I said, so, okay, this happened to you, then why would you repeat it? Why would you repeat this cycle? And why would you hurt somebody else? Why would you hurt your own daughter, knowing how much grief it gave you? And he really didn't have an answer for it. He just, I listened to him. It's on recording. I just thought, wow, this is just, it was just very sad. It's very
but
sick.
it is cyclical though. I mean,
Yes, it is.
it is. It doesn't make any sense that
No, it
they,
doesn't.
it really doesn't. I would love to have a psychologist help us understand why you repeat something so heinous and horrendous that was done to you to a loved one.
Right.
Wow. Hey, is there what I mean, I know that, all these things that we go through, we would never sign up for. What kind of gratitude have you been able to sort of like pull? Not because of the situation, but in the situation or after the situation.
Hmm. I think it's just been this crazy journey having, um, what kind of gratitude? I'm rethinking what you're saying here.
Well, here you wrote a book.
Wrote a book. I think the gratitude in this is that being would I want anybody to go through the life that I had gone through? Absolutely not. No, but I think the thing that I see that I've learned so much through this process, it would be a shame not to share it. And I
Mm.
think that the things that I applied and learned, and that's why I wrote this. But the gratitude, I think I am more open, and I think my mindset is completely different than when I started this journey. Um, I love using my voice, and I feel I'm very open and honest and raw. And I don't know, I didn't start that way, but I don't believe I would have been this person if I didn't have this experience.
Right. Gosh, that is so spot on, in my opinion. And you were talking earlier about the fact that you didn't have a voice way back when you were, younger, and now it's become fuel to be able to use it, and that you love using it. I mean, it inspires you, it empowers you, and you want to, you know, the sharing of it, it's almost like you have to share it, you get to share it, you get to put it out there so that anybody else could grab onto that. Oh my gosh, if she made it out, maybe I could too. I mean, because you're right. I mean, 1 in 4, and like you say, of the reported cases, that's just uh
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so hard, so
Well,
hard. Go ahead.
I do believe, though, this is a little bit more philosophical, but I do believe that in the dark, in our darkest moments of grief, um, sometimes it's just all black. I don't think we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but there are glimmers of light that show up every once in a while. And I think that you have to look at those glimmers of light and hold on to them and hope and try to funnel yourself towards those glimmers of light, because those
Yeah.
are the ones that are going to take you through. And I don't know how long it's going to that transition's going to be through, but it is that those glimmers and holding on. And when you get to the other end, I think it's looking at the silver lining. What kind of asking yourself, okay, yes, this did happen, but what can I take away from this? And if you dismiss all the pain and the anger and all that, if you even wrote it down on a piece of paper and then look at what is on the other balance of that paper, then focus on the silver lining. And I think that transforms you,
Yes.
that mindset. And I think it's a little bit easier to kind of go, oh, I have 100 things on this piece of paper that were all dark, but let's see how I could get through this and work through that.
Mhm.
I could focus on these three beautiful golden nuggets, or these glimmers of light, and work. How do I, because that was what I took from it.
Right. And that is very helpful in terms of, like you say, the sort of companion piece that you're putting together. There's so much healing in the power and the process of writing. I think sometimes we either don't know or haven't tried it, or, well, I'm not a writer. That's not about that. It's about, there's something about putting pen to paper, or your typewriter, or your computer. I'm dating myself.
I write with paper. I write with paper.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that process that is very healing, and I think sometimes we're intimidated. Maybe some of us might be intimidated by that thought. Well, oh, I'm not a writer. That's beside the point altogether.
Mhm.
I'm assume I won't even assume. I'll ask: are some of the tools prompts that can help people, like, kind of get it out?
Yeah. So just to kind of give you a really quick little insight, so where I took a lot of this was I happened to live in Spain as a child when I recognized, because I had dissociated, I forgot what had happened to me. And when I was becoming sexually active, where I actually looked at boys and they were actually cute for the first time, and not annoying, I started having flashbacks and everything came back, and I really thought I was losing my mind. So I wrote every dream, every flashback on a piece of paper in a notebook, and I started putting it all together. And through this process, I was able to recall everything that had happened in the past. But I have to say, I do not look at myself as a writer. I was just a person writing in a notebook, and I'm still that person writing in a notebook. In fact, I'm dyslexic, and I felt so convicted to share my story that, thank God for spelling, for, well, way back in the day, a dictionary, and now
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
autocorrect. I mean, everything.
yeah,
So I think it's just the willingness to write it down, and you don't have
yeah.
to be a brain surgeon or a perfect writer. You just
Right.
write your thoughts down. And in that process, I realized like I had nothing. Everything felt taken away from me. I felt disarmed. I hated myself. I hated my life. I hated my parents. I didn't want to live. And I contemplated suicide. And at that point, that's where I thought, "Ah, I love life, but I don't love myself. I don't love the situation I'm in. And how do I find myself back?" And living in a foreign country, I didn't have resources like going to a library. I didn't have a counselor. I asked my parents and they denied it. So I only had myself. And I thought of how do I get back and try to find myself. And in a lot of this was just simple things that I could do. I wrote down my own quotes, or I found a quote that inspired me, and I would look at that quote, tape it to my bathroom mirror,
Mhm.
and look at it and focus on it. Or I would write my own quote, a mantra, and say it every time I brushed my teeth, every time I went to the bathroom, washed my hands. I would say that quote 20 times. And if you think about how many times you go to the bathroom or you check your hair in the bathroom, you're there actually quite a bit. And and so I started just to write things that inspired me. And there were other things. I mean, as a teenager, I would write words that owned me, that I felt disgusting and dirty, stupid, fat, whatever it was. And I
Mhm.
really felt these words owned me and they carried my, in a sense, my soul down. And I used
Mhm.
to take them and write them on a piece of felt paper, excuse me, a felt pen on paper, and I would take the words into the shower and I'd watch the words melt off. And I would do, that's
Wow.
where I started doing visionary work where the words would erase. And in that process, I would feel like the words were coming off my body. And I would do this exercise daily over and over again, say these things, watch these words melt. And then before, later on, I became a little bit more sophisticated. I could visualize the words coming off of my body, but there were a lot of things that I could not stay in my body because I kept on dissociating. And I started doing a lot more grounding exercise, like walking on the sand, on the earth, grass, feeling if I would dissociate, I put cold ice in my mouth, or I actually cut out all the people who I felt were negative influences in my life. I really looked at people and I thought, they don't serve me right now. They're only taking me down a course of where I don't want to go. I'm trying to be my best self. So alcohol, drugs was not my thing. It was, in fact, I was the opposite. It was about control so that I can control a better outcome. So
Right.
it was, and everybody has their own story. Um, I wish escapism was mine, but mine was the opposite. Mine was trying to find the truth
Right.
and be in my body, because I really feel life is a gift, but I was willing to give it up just to stop the pain. So,
Right. Wow.
and I think it's harder when you're a teenager. You just really, you emotionally, I didn't know how to decipher um, the pain. I just wanted it to end, and ending
Right.
my life was a great solution. It sounded great to me, but that's not what I wanted to do. But I felt
Right.
that stuck. Yeah, I think
Right.
we've all been there in stuck situations, right?
Sure, absolutely. But obviously some far more severe than others. And
Mhm.
um, just what you experience is something we don't wish upon
No.
really anyone, and yet it still happens. Where can people find your book? Where can they find you?
And, you could find me, most people shop on Amazon, so I recommend Amazon, but otherwise, Barnes& and Noble, any bookstore, actually any place that you are looking for a book, it's there. And, but you can reach me. I do have a blog, and I have to say I really like the material that's on my blog, and I'm there to, hear your stories, share your voice with me, and that's on cindytalks.com. You can look me up on YouTube, Instagram, any social media outlet. I am there too.
Okay, all under the same Cindy Talks.
Cindy Talks or Cindy Benezra.
Okay, okay, we'll be sure and get that all in there. What a pleasure this has been. I'm very grateful for your time. I just more and more feel like time is the most precious commodity we have. And so honoring somebody else with a slice of your time, I feel like is a really, gosh, I can't even, sacred, holy kind of a thing, because it's just so, it's becoming so, scarce. I mean, we all have the same 24, and yet we don't always feel like we've got enough of it. So thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing some of your story with us and for the opportunity to reach out if we want to know more. And I just feel really grateful to have had this conversation with you.
I sincerely mean that. Thank you for having me. It's like shows like this, um, help others, and, you don't know, there might be somebody listening to this, and you might change their complete dynamic, you might rock their world, and so you're a gift for having us,
Wow.
for allowing me to come on here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.